Andrew Urquhart with you on the program. Gosh, I'm still getting used to being back on the radio after an extended time of absence. Not expected to be away that long, and it wasn't much of a holiday, but it is so good to be back. In terms of the weekend, I know for a whole bunch of people celebrating not just the beginning of the school holidays, but the beginning of the new look All Blacks, a new coach, a new strip, a new lineup. But the same old results, it seems. Joining us on the program is John Peachey. JP, did you watch the game in the weekend?
I did. Very, very concerned about what I saw. That white collar.
Well, yeah. There was a little bit of a throwback, wasn't it? But I suppose the thing that I'm wanting to focus on today is, of course, there's been a change of leadership, both in terms of the top coach and the changes that he's made to the lineup of the team, some significant changes, and the extent to which leadership defines the culture and performance of the organisation. Now, there was a lot of talk with Razor being, of course, a champion coach from years past with the Crusaders. I didn't see much champion performance last night. Well, not from the All Blacks anyway.
No. I mean, he is I think it's proper English, but a winningest coach. I mean, the guy's got some fantastic pedigree, hasn't he? But
yeah.
I was intrigued by the camera that kept sort of cutting into the coaching booth and looking through the window, and the guy was, biting his nails off, and figuratively, not literally. But look, I think one of the great things about what we saw on the weekend is something I'm passionate about in leadership: is who is coming up behind you.
Yeah.
Who the heck is sitting in the succession planning? And I think what Razor Robertson has done is said, here's a bunch of guys who've done fantastically in the Super 15.
Mm-hmm.
The young fella at fullback, fullback for the Blues. Well, that speaks for itself. That was that's a winning team. So I think he's got to. And the interesting thing is, of course, 1 point win. Yeah, the Smith for the English kicked. I think he missed 8 points or something. So that would have been a different result. We had that timeout thing. We didn't kick that goal, but I mean, I think you've got a team that's been together for 4 or 5 or 6 months, playing all over Europe. In the English team, they come down here as a coherent unit. Our boys have never played a test together in that combination.
Yeah,
pull off a win. So I mean, I think what young Razor has done is he's blooding a few people. He's trying some different positions.
1 point or 2 point has made all the difference. And honestly, sometimes you measure leadership on results. And I suppose, to be fair, with any change of leadership, you can allow a little bit of a bedding-in period, a little bit of a honeymoon. Some people have extended that grace to our new coalition government. I want to switch things up a little bit and talk politics, though, because there's been some significant changes of leadership in the Northern Hemisphere. From the UK, of course, where the English rugby team have come from, a landslide to Labour, and then over the weekend, it was expected to go right. It was expected to be the most far-right government that France had had since the Nazis were in power, but it switched the other way instead and went left. I suppose the people have spoken. New leadership, new government in both nations, it would seem.
Yes, Jean-Luc Mélenchon. Yeah, interesting. Yep. Head of the Socialist Party. I think it's really interesting. I mean, the same in obviously in Great Britain. I think there is what's going on is people are saying, you've lost me.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think and I don't think we can be too smug if you're a National Party supporter or if you're look what's happening in the US. I mean, it's different there. The Liberals are, looks like Biden's going to get his whatever handed to him on a plate. But
if he lives that long, honestly.
If he lives that long. Yep. But I think what people are doing is they're looking at the outcomes of politics and going, hell no. Right, and I think the average person is doing that now. So I think politicians, I think both these results are putting the world on notice that actually you've got to get this right, guys, because we're no longer going to put up with, high expenditure, papering your own nest, all that kind of stuff. And I mean, Macron has been blamed, the right is saying Macron set the whole thing up and But, I mean, I think it's a very interesting thing. And it's interesting that Jean-Luc Mélenchon said, we're allowed to love our country, which is a very interesting statement, because that's kind of the Make America great again kind of statement in the States.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, isn't it? So the Socialist Party is saying, we love our country. So that's kind of an odd mixed message in some respects, but it's a real interesting thing. I mean, you look at what's happened, Sir, and I'm not sure how many times the Sir has been Prime Minister of Britain, of Great Britain.
Yeah.
But this is only the fifth Labour Prime Minister.
Yeah.
In England. That's a stunning thing, really.
We've had Tories in power for a long time. It seems like to me, and hey, it's not necessarily a vote left or a vote right. It's a vote for, let's see what the other guy's got, because we're sick of it, honestly.
Yeah, Andrew, I think that's absolutely right. Interesting, just to comment on that, Nigel Farage, who was formerly, former politician, now the leader of the Reform UK Party, and a good broadcaster too, actually. It's a matter of interest. He was saying this morning, he said, the crazy thing about this system is that a third of the votes gained 2/3 of the seats. That's how Labour got in. And he went on to say, this is the least experienced. This is the least experienced group of politicians ever to sit in government benches, and he's really concerned about that. Within a few days, the pressure's going to come on them, and it's going to be interesting. But I think the critical thing is, and this is the critical thing for leadership for me, and it's a stunning statement that I heard a number of years ago now. People will not follow you into confusion. Is that what people are wanting? And this is my argument about why Trump was elected in 2016. Forget his morals, forget everything else. He just said, this is where we're going, come with me.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's happened. So I think you're right. People have just gone, you know what, here's a clear message, come with me. What has been working for, what has been in power is simply not working for people. And if at the end of the day, whoever you put in power, your food bill has risen, you can't put gas in your car, you can't afford to pay for your kids' education, you can't afford your insurance. Well, not being a prophesier of doom, but at some point the guillotine is going to reappear back in the streets.
Yeah.
It's because people are going to go, enough is enough. Well, that's a political statement right there. But I think this is what's going on. I really do, is that leadership is being called to account. Now, I believe, and I've said this in the program before, I believe that God spoke to me a number of years ago now and indicated that leadership was going to be shaken. And I believe he was talking in the church, which is actually proved to be true since that time. And not that I'm anybody, but I mean, since that time, the number of significant leaders in Christendom have tumbled and been shown to be really, really untrustworthy, unkind people. So, and that's this country and other countries as well, big ministries. So I think people are just going, if you want to earn the right to, well, you have to earn the right to lead me. I think that's what they're saying, and that's results, mate. That is show me the outcomes, that my life is getting better with you. That's a simple outcome, right? You can measure that really, really easily. Under the national government, go 12 months' time, say, is my life better off under this government than it was under the Labour government? Very, very clear outcomes, I think.
Yeah, and hey, the proof is in the pudding in that regard, in terms of elections in the Northern Hemisphere and even All Black performances. There's a little bit of grace, but I suppose as we started this conversation, we talked about, hey, if you're wanting to change the culture of an organization or even the culture of an entire nation, it all starts with the leadership. If you have the same people doing the same things, you're not going to move much transformational change. Now, it's not as simple as that, obviously, but it is perhaps the best place to start. Are we seeing that in the church, though, do you think? Are we seeing the leadership that we need to bring the type of change that we need moving forward as a church, John?
Oh, have you got the red dump button handy? 'Cause I think you might need to press it any moment.
I might be pushing your optimism a little bit too much from Monday morning, perhaps, John?
Well, let me tell you what I observe, and I think it's dangerous. Let me preface it by saying God has a kingdom. He doesn't need us to build another one.
Yeah.
And what I see is churches building kingdoms where they're putting leaders in place who have become victims of their own narrative. This is about service, right? You find meaning and purpose in life in the service of others. Jesus said, if you want to be the greatest of all, guess what? You got to lay your life down. Right? You got to be the servant of all. And I think we're in danger in the church. Now, broad statement, because I know some outstanding leaders. There was a 90th birthday of a man called Edgar Hornblow on the weekend, who was a Wesleyan Methodist, served the church for over 70 years, was our first pastor when I was a kid. I mean, sort of guy you would lay your life down for, because just a beautiful man, he and his wife and family, fantastic people. I'll get teary-eyed thinking about it. There are leaders out there who've led in the church beautifully, brilliantly, and with the foremost thought of Christ. But I think we're seeing a dangerous generation of leaders. I really do. And it seems to be about size. It seems to be about experience. It seems to be about things which I don't think are helpful. But to your point, all culture within organizations, whether it's secular or Christian, is set from the leadership down. And I'm highly critical of, in the business world, that we keep appointing these people in culture teams. Actually, what we need to be doing is focusing on the quality of leadership, because and that applies in every organization. You know, in churches, I think absolutely the same. That, you know, the senior leader sets the culture. That's where it's at for me.
John, appreciate your wisdom and insight. Appreciate the work that you do as well with leadership consultancy and with the People Mechanics podcast. Thanks again for chatting with us on the show. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. So, did any of that broadcast? Did you hit the red button?
No. That all went to air. For better or worse, John. Talk to the next time, mate.
Edit machine. No, it's good, mate. It's pleased, and you know, and I don't want to offend anyone, but it's time we had some pretty straightforward conversation.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.